Do you think about that a lot, both of you? You particularly, Kate, obviously.
Well, obviously it'd be...
A phone buzzes on a kitchen counter in London, then another lights up in Toronto, then one more in Lagos and another in Sydney. Within minutes, the same claim is moving across timelines on 3 continents. Camilla has lost her title. The headline is short, sharp, built for a thumbnail. 5 words that promise a scandal already finished. No context, no source named, just a claim, dropped into a feed, ready to travel on its own. Screenshots spread faster than facts. A comment section fills with shock, then anger, then jokes. Someone types, "Finally." Someone else types, "This can't be true." Nobody stops to check. Within the hour, strangers who have never met are arguing about a wedding that happened 20 years ago, a coronation that happened 2 years ago, and a title none of them can fully define. For a moment, it feels real. That's how a rumor works. It borrows the shape of something true and wears it like a coat. But inside Buckingham Palace, nothing has changed. No announcement has gone out, no statement has been issued. The official record still lists Camilla exactly where it did yesterday. Her Majesty the Queen. Hi viewers, quick question before we go further. When you first saw a claim like this about Camilla, did you believe it, or did you scroll straight past? Type your answer below, because the reason rumors like this spread so fast might surprise you. Here's what makes this claim so believable to millions of people. Something almost like it actually happened. Only a few months earlier, the palace really did strip a senior royal of his titles. A formal, legal process. A name change ordered by the king himself. Cameras outside the gates. Headlines confirmed by the palace's own press office within hours. That royal was Prince Andrew. That event is real, documented, and still fresh in public memory. So, when a new claim surfaces saying William and Catherine confirmed the same fate for Camilla, the mind does something dangerous. It reaches for the nearest true memory and stretches it to fit a new name, and most people never notice the stretch happening at all. Camilla did not lose a title. She currently holds one of the oldest and most protected positions in the British monarchy. But the question refuses to die. If the palace can strip one royal without warning, could it happen again? To someone even closer to the throne? That question is what this story is really about. Not a title, a pattern. And once a pattern starts forming in a family this old, this watched, and this guarded, it rarely stays quiet for long. A letter lands on desks across Britain on a February morning in 2022. It carries the Queen's own words, released to mark 70 years on the throne. Reporters read it twice, because one sentence buried inside changes everything. Elizabeth II writes that it is her sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort once Charles becomes king. For a woman who spent decades as the most criticized figure in the royal family, those words settle a question nobody expected to close so cleanly and so publicly. Rewind 17 years earlier. Camilla marries Charles in 2005, and the palace won't even confirm what she will be called one day. Advisors float the title Princess Consort instead, a compromise built to soften public anger that still hasn't faded. Diana, Princess of Wales, has been dead less than a decade. Many in Britain haven't forgiven Charles, and they certainly haven't forgiven the woman standing beside him at the altar. Diana had famously suggested there were really 3 people involved in her marriage, not 2, and that public sentiment follows Camilla into every room she enters for years afterward. Wedding day photographs show tight, careful smiles. Newspapers openly debate whether she deserves a place in the family at all. There is no roadmap for how a woman in her position earns back public trust. She simply starts, quietly, and keeps going. Public opinion moves slowly, then all at once. By the time Elizabeth II makes her announcement, Camilla's approval has climbed steadily for years. Charity work, steady public appearances, no scandals chasing her name through the papers. The palace reads the shift and acts on it. Then comes the coronation, May 2023. The invitation cards go out with gold foil lettering, and royal watchers notice something immediately. The word consort is missing. Camilla is listed simply as Queen Camilla. No formal announcement explains the change. The palace website updates quietly that same week, one web address swapped for another, with no fanfare at all. Royal historians point out this isn't as strange as it looks. Past queens rarely use the word consort outside formal ceremonies. But symbolism matters in a monarchy built on symbolism, and dropping that word after 18 years of controversy sends a message the palace never has to say out loud. Camilla has arrived, fully, without qualification, without an asterisk beside her name. That's the woman at the center of this rumor, not a controversial outsider anymore. A queen who fought for her place and got it, in writing, in law, and on paper anyone in the world can read for themselves. But while Camilla was securing her position at the top, another household was quietly building something of its own. A household with 3 young children, a growing list of responsibilities, and a name about to mean something very different. The Wales family. September 9th, 2022. One day after his mother's death, King Charles III stands before the cameras and delivers his first address to the nation. Partway through, he says his son's name and a new title in the same breath. William is now Prince of Wales. Catherine becomes Princess of Wales. The title once worn by Diana returns to the family, carried now by a new generation. It's a short line inside a long, grief-heavy speech, but it resets the entire order of the monarchy overnight in front of a watching world. William stands one step from the throne, officially and publicly, in a role his grandmother had been preparing him for over decades. Catherine takes on a title carrying enormous emotional weight, given who wore it last and how that story ended. Their 3 children, George, Charlotte and Louis, move up the line of succession, their futures now impossible to separate from the institution itself. From that day forward, the pattern is visible to anyone paying attention. William takes on patronages his father used to hold. Catherine steps further into causes tied to early childhood development, work she had already shaped for years before the title changed. Public appearances multiply. Overseas visits get scheduled with more weight attached to them than before. None of this happens in secret. It happens in daylight, announced by the same palace press office that announces everything else. The money follows the title. As Duke of Cornwall, William now controls an estate first created in 1337 to fund the heir to the throne, land and property spread across 23 counties in England. In the 2024 to 2025 financial year, that estate generated a surplus of £22.9 million, money that covers William, Catherine, and their children's official and private costs. The year before, it was £23.6 million. These aren't estimates or rumours. They're published every year in the Duchy's own annual report, filed for anyone to read. Polling tells the same story from a different angle. Surveys taken across 2025 consistently placed William and Catherine at or near the top of the entire royal family's favourability rankings, well ahead of most other senior royals wearing a title. Younger audiences in particular respond to them more than almost anyone else in the family. None of this reflects a secret plan. It's what happens, structurally, when an heir moves one step closer to the throne. Responsibility increases. Visibility increases. The public starts rehearsing, without quite meaning to, what the monarchy will look like once William is the one giving the Christmas broadcast, instead of watching it from the pews. But visibility for one household raises an uncomfortable question about another. If the cameras, the patronages, and the headlines increasingly point toward William and Catherine's home, where does that leave Camilla, sitting one title away from the very top of the institution she fought so hard to belong to? The public doesn't ask this question out loud, not yet. But once you notice the shift, it becomes very hard to unsee. Buckingham Palace holds 2 kinds of power under one roof, and they don't always point in the same direction. One belongs to King Charles III and Queen Camilla. It's the power of the present. Every decision the palace makes today, every appointment, every state visit, runs through them first. Charles has worn the crown since September 2022. Camilla stands beside him at nearly every major function, from state banquets to the Order of the Garter service, present in almost every photograph that defines his reign so far. The other kind of power belongs to William and Catherine. It's the power of the future, and it doesn't need a coronation to start working. It builds itself through visibility, through causes chosen years in advance, through children growing up in front of cameras that will follow them for the rest of their lives. Royal commentators have long described monarchies as institutions that survive by holding both of these at once, tradition and change, without letting either one collapse the other. Britain's constitutional monarchy isn't run by personal rivalry.
So I find that dry in here. Seriously,
No.
the amount of water gets flown around the place.
I don't think that's the game for you.
It's run by law. The Bill of Rights of 1689 and the Act of Settlement of 1701 are the two statutes that still govern who can sit on the throne and how succession actually works. Under that law, Camilla can never become a reigning monarch. She married into her role. She cannot inherit it. William, by contrast, is next by direct blood descent, a position no rumour, no title change, and no palace decision can undo. That legal reality creates an emotional one underneath it. Charles carries two responsibilities that occasionally pull against each other. He has to protect the wife who stood by him through decades of public hostility, guarding her position and her legacy after everything it cost her to get here. At the same time, he has to prepare the institution and his son for a transition that history says is coming, whether anyone feels ready or not. No father wants to spend his reign choosing between the two people standing closest to him, but the calendar rarely asks for permission. Neither responsibility cancels the other out, but they sit close enough together that outside observers keep watching for the moment where one wins and the other quietly loses. Then a different kind of question starts circulating, one that has nothing to do with legal statutes at all. What happens when someone keeps every title they were legally given, word for word, exactly as written, and the public's attention simply moves somewhere else anyway? There's no law written for that. No formal legal process can be issued to stop people from paying more attention to a different household down the hall. Titles are protected by centuries of legal tradition, tested and written into statute. Attention isn't protected by anything at all. It goes wherever it wants. And that gap between what the law guarantees on paper and what the public actually chooses to watch is exactly where a rumor like this one finds room to grow, quietly, one screenshot at a time. Strip away the headline, and the claim about Camilla's title starts falling apart within seconds. There's no legal notice revoking anything, no parliamentary action, no statement from Buckingham Palace confirming a single word of it. Compare that to what actually happened to Prince Andrew in October and November of 2025, when the king genuinely did strip a family member of his styles, titles, and the right to be called Royal Highness through a real legal process published in the London Gazette for the entire country to read. That process left a paper trail anyone can find, dates, letters, a formal notice with the king's own authority behind it. The Camilla rumour leaves nothing behind but shares and screenshots, no trail at all. So why does it keep spreading anyway? Because the real story was never about a title. It's about something much harder to screenshot. Influence. Titles are fixed. Influence moves. It shows up in which patronages get renewed and which quietly fade from the calendar. It shows up in who gets photographed on the front steps of an overseas visit and who stays behind. It shows up in polling, tracked every few months by the same firms year after year. By late 2025, surveys placed William and Catherine's favourability in the 70s, consistently the most popular working royals in the country. Camilla's numbers, by contrast, sat in the low to mid-40s, a divisive figure even years after the coronation gave her the title outright, in writing, for good. None of that changes her legal status by a single letter. But it changes what people notice, what they screenshot, and what they argue about at midnight. And a rumour doesn't feed on facts. It feeds on exactly that kind of noticing. To be clear, because this matters, there is no verified evidence that William or Catherine have taken any action, public or private, to reduce Camilla's title, her role, or her influence. That entire premise remains unconfirmed by any credible source. What is confirmed is a slow, visible shift in where cameras, headlines, and public affection increasingly point. A shift that has nothing to do with anyone stripping anything from anyone at all. That reframes the whole story. The villain here was never Camilla. It was never William either. The real antagonist has no face and no name. It's a rumor culture that turns silence into suspicion and turns a routine institutional handover into a manufactured feud. because a feud earns more clicks than a fact ever will. That culture doesn't need permission to grow, it only needs a gap, a moment where the palace says nothing.
Hello, seen the street, really? How can I help? Yes. Sorry? What street are you on?
And the public decides to say everything instead. And once that gap opens, the questions stop being about who holds which title on paper. They start being about something the palace has never fully controlled, and likely never will: who the public decides to watch next. Westminster Abbey, May 6th, 2023. Cameras hold on one moment longer than almost any other in the entire coronation broadcast. Prince William kneels in front of his father, King Charles III, seated on the throne beneath St. Edward's crown. William takes his father's hands and speaks a pledge older than the country's written constitution, ending with 5 words borrowed from medieval England: "Liege man of life and limb." Then he rises and kisses his father's cheek. That homage is aimed at one person only, the king. Not Camilla, seated a few feet away in her own crown, anointed in her own right earlier in the same service. Royal historians point out this isn't a snub, it's how the ceremony has worked for centuries. The heir swears loyalty to the sovereign, not to the sovereign's spouse, a distinction written into the liturgy long before anyone in this family was born. But footage doesn't explain centuries of tradition in the 2 seconds it takes to circulate online. All most viewers see is William kneeling to one parent figure and not the other, and that image gets replayed, captioned, and picked apart for years afterward. This is the real reason the Camilla-William relationship keeps drawing so much attention, not because of anything either of them has ever said, because of who came before both of them. Diana, Princess of Wales, died in 1997, and Britain has never fully closed that chapter. Tony Blair called her the People's Princess within hours of her death, and the phrase stuck permanently to her memory. Camilla married into that memory in 2005, stepping into a role that carried an invisible comparison built in from day one she never asked for and could never fully escape. Royal biographers have written for years about how carefully Camilla has moved around that comparison, rarely discussing Diana directly in public, never positioning herself as any kind of replacement. William and Harry's relationship with their stepmother reportedly cooled and warmed in stages over 2 decades, according to multiple accounts, including Harry's own memoir, which describes years of distance before the relationship gradually improved. None of that is secret conflict. It's a family adjusting, slowly, in full public view, to a loss nobody inside it ever fully finished processing. But every serious royal watcher knows the real tension was never going to come from inside a family that has spent 20 years quietly learning to coexist. It was always going to come from outside the palace gates, from an audience that never stopped grieving one woman long enough to fully accept the one who came after her. March 10th, 2024. Kensington Palace posts a single photo. Catherine, Princess of Wales, smiling, surrounded by her 3 children, released for Mother's Day. It's her first public image since abdominal surgery 2 months earlier. Within hours, it's seen by tens of millions of people online. Then, late that same night, something almost unheard of happens. Reuters pulls the photo from its wire, then AP, then AFP, then Getty. Each one issues what's known in the industry as a kill notice, a formal warning telling every newsroom on Earth to stop using the image because it may have been digitally altered. AP says its review shows signs of manipulation. AFP cites an editorial issue. A global photo agency executive later tells the BBC that a kill notice over manipulation is extremely rare, almost never used against a royal household. The palace offers no immediate explanation, and into that silence, the entire internet rushes at once, filling the gap faster than any press office could ever hope to keep up with. Within a day, amateur investigators are zooming into Princess Charlotte's sleeve cuff, into a misaligned zipper, into Kate's hands. Conspiracy theories multiply by the hour. Catherine eventually posts her own apology, admitting to editing the image herself, but by then the story has already outgrown the photo completely. This is what royal commentators mean when they describe the relationship between silence and speculation. The palace didn't lie. It simply said less than the public wanted, at the exact moment curiosity was highest, and the gap filled itself in with theories nobody could verify. That single week reshaped how the press treats every royal statement that follows it. According to reporting from multiple outlets, one senior figure at a major photo agency said their trust in the palace as a source had been permanently recalibrated. Apply that same lesson to the Camilla title claim, and the pattern becomes obvious. No detailed statement exists denying it point by point, just silence, and a public that has already learned, from recent experience, exactly what silence can be hiding. The press didn't invent this rumor from nothing. It grew inside a habit the institution itself helped build. One photograph, one gap, one unanswered question at a time. And somewhere behind all of it, a new generation of royals was already learning to communicate on completely different terms than the one before them. Rio de Janeiro, November 2025. Prince William walks the stage at the Earthshot Prize Awards, an event he founded in 2020 to fund solutions to climate change. Cameras follow him shaking hands with young scientists and entrepreneurs from a dozen countries. It looks nothing like a traditional royal engagement, and that's exactly the point. William has said, in a televised interview, that he doesn't want to repeat what he's called the mistakes of the generation before him. He hasn't spelled out every detail publicly, but the pattern of his choices does the talking. Fewer formal galas, more hands-on visits. A foundation built around causes he picked himself, homelessness and the environment among them, rather than causes simply inherited with the title. Royal commentators have suggested this is William quietly drafting the blueprint for his own reign before it even begins, years ahead of the actual handover. From a public relations standpoint, that pattern suggests a monarch trying to prove relevance to a younger public before he ever needs their approval, since the monarchy, unlike Parliament, never technically has to win one. But underneath the climate summits and the mental health campaigns sits a harder question. One William cannot dodge with a foundation launch. Every future king in British history has faced the same test. What do you keep, and what do you let go? Keep too much tradition, and the institution looks frozen while the country changes around it. Let go of too much, and critics accuse the monarchy of losing the weight of history that justifies its existence in the first place. William is threading that needle in real time, in public, with no rehearsal. And Camilla sits directly inside that test, whether anyone planned it that way or not. How William eventually treats his stepmother's legacy, once the crown genuinely passes to him, will say more about his leadership than any prize ceremony or climate pledge ever could. Does a modern monarchy under William quietly minimize the role of the woman who helped stabilize his father's reign? Or does it fold her contribution into the official story of the family, the way institutions usually treat loyal service once enough time has passed? Nobody outside William's own household knows the answer yet, and it isn't a decision he has to make for years, if the pattern of a long reign holds the way it usually does in this family. But history rarely remembers a king only for the power he inherited. It remembers him for the choices he made once he actually held it, especially the quiet ones nobody was watching closely enough to notice at the time. Delete the headline, delete the thumbnail. What's actually left, once every layer of this story gets stripped away, is not a scandal about a title at all. It's a household in transition, watched by more cameras than any family in modern history, going through a change every royal family in Britain has gone through before it. The names are different this time. The mechanics are exactly the same. King Charles III is 77 years old, reigning through a period reporting has described as marked by his own cancer treatment, disclosed in February 2024, and the fallout from his brother Andrew's removal from royal life in late 2025. Camilla has spent this same period as his most consistent public partner, present at nearly every appearance that keeps the institution running day to day. From state visits to quiet hospital duties, nobody puts on a magazine cover. William, meanwhile, has spent 3 years quietly assembling the version of kingship he intends to run once his time comes. Built through causes he chose himself, rather than ones simply handed down to him by a predecessor. Catherine has become, by nearly every published polling metric, the most trusted figure the family currently has, a fact that gives her symbolic weight far beyond any formal title on a court document. None of these 4 people is trying to remove anyone from anything. What's actually happening is slower and far less dramatic than any viral claim. An institution quietly redistributing its public attention, the same way it has every single generation for the last 1,000 years. So was the Camilla rumor proof of instability inside the palace? Almost certainly not, based on everything documented and on the record. No legal filing supports it, no statement confirms it, no credible insider account backs it up. Was it proof of something else entirely? Very likely. It's proof that audiences are watching a large, historic institution shift in real time. And that shift makes people anxious. Because succession always means something eventually ends, even when nothing has technically been taken from anyone. That anxiety needed somewhere to go. A title everyone already half understood, attached to a woman who spent 2 decades as the family's most controversial figure, gave it a symbol to attach itself to. False, easy to share, but simple enough to survive a 6-second scroll on a crowded timeline, which is really all a rumor needs to succeed. The title was never actually the story. The story was time, moving forward, exactly the way it always does in this family, whether the palace announces it or not. Windsor Castle, an ordinary afternoon, no cameras invited. Somewhere inside, a queen who spent nearly 2 decades fighting for basic public acceptance now signs official papers under a title once considered unthinkable for a divorced, once vilified woman to hold. Down the hall, or across the country at another engagement entirely, the future king and future queen are building a version of the monarchy that looks less and less like the one either of them grew up inside as children. Nobody announced this shift with a press release. Nobody scheduled a ceremony for it. It happened the way most real change happens inside a 1,000-year-old institution. Slowly, through small decisions, repeated often enough that they eventually become the new normal, without anyone marking the exact date it started. Camilla's journey took her from the most criticized woman in Britain to a queen whose title now sits in law, uncontested, permanent, spelled out on official documents anyone can request to see. William and Catherine's journey is only starting, built one patronage, one overseas trip, one carefully chosen cause at a time, in full view of cameras that never fully look away, not even for a single day. The rumor that sparked this entire investigation was never going to hold up under any real scrutiny. No legal filing supports it. No statement confirms it. No credible source has ever put their name to it. But it revealed something true underneath the noise. An institution this old is always changing hands, always redistributing attention, long before any actual crown changes heads. That's the part most headlines miss entirely, chasing a scandal that was never real instead of the transition that already is. Because in the monarchy, the most powerful changes are not always the ones written into law. Sometimes they are the ones the world slowly begins to notice. One photograph, one appearance, one quiet Tuesday afternoon at a time, long after the headline that started the conversation has already been forgotten.